We'll talk about a little about encapsulation today. Is one of the main pillars, main components in object orientation. Is the task slash practice of us hiding information that does not to be it doesn't need to be accessible or authorized by anyone, or developers or users or even programs. Some languages like C Sharp, C++, and Java, they control this using public, protected, a private, a final private, and so on and so forth. The thing is, in Python, encapsulation is not strictly enforced, which means that even though we can use some artifacts to hide information from other programs, classes, objects, etc., you can still get away and access that information. But in any case, there's a way for us to kind of hide this, at least at some level, all right? So let's take, for example, this class robot that we have. We have the script, the program robot encapsulation. And from there, we're importing the class robot. So let's take a look at how it looks like. By convention, Python uses this underscores or double underscores. We've seen this in the constructor, right? We can use those underscores to kind of protect at some level which information should not be visible or directly accessed by a child, object, or even by a program, all right? So in this case right here, we have the class robot where we have a double underscore version, double underscore name, and underscore week underscore name, right? And we have pretty much all the other ones here for the functions, right? For this class. Now let's initialize our object. Let's call this object, and it's part of the class robot. Now, if you're using IDEs such as PyCharm, if you do obj and you do dot here, we're going to see that some of the functions, like in get version and set version, they are directly accessible for us. So if you remember, and we can go back and take a look, get version and set version, they do not have an underscore. So they are pretty much available up here for us. But let's leave functions for a little bit later. Let's take a look on the attributes. Now we want to take a look on the attributes like in week name. If we do underscore and week, we cannot see the attribute directly. You see, even though the attribute exists because our object was instantiated. So if we do a week name here, and yeah, that's it. And well, of course, this line is not doing anything, so let's just print it out and see how it looks like. If we do this and we printed out this, if you hover your mouse over this variable, it is going to say access to protected member week name of a class. So the single line, the single underscore, it works at some level as a, let's say, a soft private. It's kind of a protected kind of thing. The information is hidden from the child object, but you can still access and print the information if you want, right? So if you go there and you print, you see that Howdy was printed out, which is the name, the week name that we put it there. So this is pretty cool, right? Now let's try to access a variable which has the double underscores, like let's say name. Underscore name, as we had it there. The same way we cannot see that information directly, but now well, let's use version because we have get version, set version, and then we're going to use this later. So if we do version here and we try to print it out that information, we're gonna get an error saying that robot object has no attribute called double underscore version, which is somehow weird because we know that this variable exists within that object. But since we are using a double underscore, we're kind of saying that this is a private attribute, strongly defined, if you want to call that way. So, which one can say, yeah. So you see, Python has a way of encapsulating things. Well, not exactly, and I'll show you how. So if we call our object right here and we say, hey, let's take object and get the version. So if we go ahead and just print it out that information, we have a getters and setters. We can go there and see that the value is 42 for version, right? So said that, if we want to go ahead and say, you know, object dot underscore version, which in theory we did not have access, and we say now the value is going to be 100, and then we're going to go ahead and print it out the value, right? So if we do this here, oops, yeah, so we see here that the values they are still the same, even though we tried to change this variable and we could not change that variable, right? So the values are still not accessible for us. So now, and if we do the following, if we do a obj here and we do a set version, and now we pass the version like 100, then let's try to print it out and see. Now we see that the value changed, right? So we can still access the variable, but we cannot actually change the object value there. But we can use the getters and setters to get away with this. All right. Another thing, if we want to go there and ask our object class to get some classes that are not specifically defined, like for example make noise, if we just do like this and then we just call this function here directly, and if we call this, we also have that the function is protected member of the class. And why that? Because we are beginning with a single underscore. Pretty much the same behavior as you have with object here, and then the variable week name that we talked about it. All right. Now, said that, the same thing will happen if you have a variable function which has double underscores, as in the secret or the object or the function, sorry, turn off. So if we have here turn off, we'll see that this, as you can see, this object, this function is not being presented as method, sorry. And then if we do that turn off and then we just call it, let's do the following. And then let's run here for us. So even though we got an error here for some of the functions, we still have the execution being processed for us, right? I mean, here we have underscore on both lines, which is not the same thing as just beginning with underscore, but that's fine. But for this function right here, which theoretically starts with 2 underscores, but it also finishes, so is not that important here for us. But this guy right here, the turn off function, as you can see, it was not executed, right? And why that? Because we cannot access directly. It's like this method here doesn't exist. All right. Usually we do this when we want to create private functions or let's say components such as variables, and also methods that they should only be available within our class. So if here inside our class robot encapsulation, I want to call the function turn off secret, or I want to call the version with 2 underscores, then I should be able to do this. Okay. So just to quick summarize it, we can enforce kind of here between quotes the encapsulation in Python using single underscore or double underscore, but this is not strictly enforced. Even though we cannot access through this here, there are still ways you can mitigate this little issue. All right, so thank you and happy coding.